Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Financial Issues this Tuesday, April the 8th, 2025. I'm Seth Sam here with the Studio A team, Sam Case, and the rest of the guys in the control room. Good to be here with you all today on this Tuesday. We're live, so I hope you'll join us for the whole show today at 610-363-1110. That's the best way to contact us, is the phone number, 610-363-1110. You can join the conversation today. I would encourage you to ask questions, folks. We absolutely love it. This is a conversation-driven show, so we'd love to be able to have you as part of the conversation. No matter how you're watching or listening today, whether it's on one of our outlets, on the website, listening on the radio, maybe you're driving into work this morning, great to have you with us today. We're delighted to be here. Hey, I do want to remind you all, especially partners, this applies to you. There is a new partner commentary posted as of this morning. Shannon did a great job explaining kind of what's going on here as we look at the markets and the volatility that we saw in the last couple days. And if the pre-markets tell us anything, it's shooting back up now. So those markets just can never really be predictable, that's for sure. But just some great stuff that we need to be reminded of there, folks. You know, especially when we're talking about our attitude compared to what is happening with most investors and most traders on Wall Street. Now could be a great opportunity for you to put some new money to work. It also might not be the bottom, but you know what? I think in the final analysis, that shouldn't faze you because none of us is going to know exactly when the bottom happens. Obviously, we would all love to get in right at the bottom, but that's just not something that finite humans can predict. We need to look for good opportunities. If you've got money to put to work and you're ready to put it to work, maybe that's your sign that it's time to put it to work. Who knows? So just some good, really good reminders for you. I'd encourage you to go read Shanna's commentary this morning. Even if you have to do it right now and you need to listen to the show later, that's okay. You can always do that on the podcast. So make sure that you do that. Good to be here with you all today. All right, on today's show, again, that commentary, also the volatility in the markets kind of cooled off at the end of the day yesterday, and it seems like, at least for today, according to the pre-markets, they are turning course and going way back up. Also, several nations now coming to the table while others are digging their feet in further with tariff talks. We'll see which is which. I'm sure, Sam, our listeners will not be surprised by which nations are willing to come to the table and which are not. So we'll have some fun with that.
Probably take a guess right about now, but I will say that table is getting pretty big. So they might need to pull up some extra chairs.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
About 70 countries right now.
70 countries. Wow, that's more than we had yesterday. So that's good stuff. And also, despite the chaos, by the way, the opinion of most retail investors, so average investors like you and I, is apparently quite excited as the market downturn provides a chance for deploying new funds, just like what we were talking about right there, folks. Also, your calls and questions. Busy show today. We're excited for it, and we're grateful that you've joined us. Before we get to any of that, though, you know, our founder, Dan Celia, who went home to be with the Lord several years ago, had a lot to say about not swaying to and fro when we're looking at market downturns and volatility. He was able to manage the financial crisis of 2008 and 2009 basically because he hardly ever looked at his portfolio during that time. Sam and I talk about this, how Dan used to talk about how he would not look at it because it would just make him depressed. So he just wouldn't look at it. He would trust that a long-term strategy is what's going to get you through. He resolved to stay the course, and it worked. He was an expert at staying in, and I think his words can provide us great insight this morning as we're coming through this volatile season, several historically bad days in the market, and now again pricing possibly for a good one. We'll have to see. As we're seeing this market volatility, great to hear Dan's words. So I got a couple clips to play for you here from our founder, Dan Celia. This first one is speaking to the idea of how to sell a stock at the right time. Here's our founder, Dan Celia.
For years and years, investors have said, oh, don't worry about the losses. It's only on paper. It'll come back. I've always said that your profits are only on paper, too. But there has to be a somewhat of a deeper conviction about your strategy. Not about individual stocks per se, but about the strategy. And your strategy is supposed to be, and I hope it is, a strategy that you believe in. The way that people make money from constantly investing is they allow certain aspects of your portfolio, the foundational stuff particularly, to stay in there, just to continue to grow. But here's the other thing. When that down market recovers, those things that are down in your portfolio, they are going to recover in such a bigger way than they normally would go up in the course of a year or two. They're going to go up in a really big way. And what that does is it forms a new bottom in your portfolio. That's where I want every single one of our partners to be. Not because it helps me, it doesn't help me at all, it doesn't help our ministry at all, but it helps the kingdom, because you're going to get so comfortable with your money, you're going to be giving more money than you've ever dreamed of giving. So don't look at your portfolio as one or two stocks. The reason we have diversification is so that we have some stocks that are going to support all the down stocks.
And, folks, you might find that really good asset allocation, diversification, that might be helpful for you in a time like this as we're seeing volatility. So that's great. One more clip here from Dan Celia talking about the need to not change your strategy just based on what the markets are doing. This is a great reminder for us, folks. Here's our founder one more time talking about that need.
The markets are obviously no indication of where the economy is. You all heard my rants on that over and over and over again over the last 8 years. The markets will take care of themselves when we have good, strong, organic growth. So don't worry about the downticks. Don't worry about people panicking. Don't worry about everybody's, there's people, my neighbors are panicking. They're starting to sell their all. Listen, don't even worry about it. Don't move. Don't change anything. Don't say, in light of the market, you think, Dan, I ought to change my. No, don't change anything. Because the economy is looking probably even stronger today.
And, folks, I think one of the cool things, seeing a clip like that, I get to speak as someone who's further upstream from this, and getting to come on and speak to each of you who the vast majority of you have internalized that exact mindset. The vast majority of you, that stuff that Dan just said is just review for you. It's just further edification of what you're already doing. And so I can't encourage you enough to just keep on doing it. Stay the course. Use the new website. Use those tools that we have. If you've got new money that you can put to work, consider doing that right now. If you're a little bit nervous about it, consider waiting a little bit as well. Look, that's, the beauty of this strategy is that it really is up to you. It is a do-it-yourself strategy. We're here to provide guidance. That's what we're trying to do. So great words there from our founder, of course, Dan Celia. All right, Sam, let's get here with the time we have left in this segment. I had mentioned that retail investor crowd, a lot of them smell an opportunity here. What can you tell us about this, Sam?
Well, maybe more people are listening to Dan Celia than we think.
That's
because
right.
It looks like
That's right.
Individual investors are not panicking this time around.
Yeah.
In fact, as you said, they are smelling some opportunity. According to JP Morgan, quote, despite a sea of red, retail investors stood firm and not only bought the dip, but did so at historic paces on Thursday, buying $4.7 billion of net buying. That's the largest we've seen over the past decade. The Mag 7 were the most popular purchases, naturally, particularly NVIDIA and Amazon, totaling more than $400 million in net buys. Now, this is kind of a new thing for retail investors, because in the past, they have panicked when everyone else is panicking. For example, in 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, when it was first beginning in April and May, they joined a lot of the panic and got out of the market. And when they did get back in the market, it was largely in ETFs and mutual funds. Not the case right here, buying individual stocks, particularly more volatile, risky stocks like the tech sector. So that is encouraging to see.
Absolutely, Sam. And keep in mind, folks, this comes alongside of a growing movement of biblically responsible investors as well. I think there's some exciting things to see here, folks, and I think this is just one of them. No, that's great, Sam. Thank you for bringing that up to us. All right, folks, let's get to the markets here real quick before the end of this segment. So yesterday, the markets opened the day kind of continuing that several days long tailspin that we saw from late last week. The S&P 500 was fast approaching bear market territory. In fact, at certain times during the day, the S&P 500 did hit bear market territory, 20% down from those highs. Somehow by late afternoon, afternoon, the NASDAQ turned positive, and that kind of tended to be, I think, the first sign of maybe the entirety of the market starting to slow down a little bit and maybe turn course. So by the first closing bell of the week, still the Dow Jones and S&P 500 finished negative. The Dow was down almost a full percent. The S&P only about a quarter of a percentage point. The NASDAQ did finish positive, right about 0.1%. Now, the pre-markets as of this morning are feeling really good. They're feeling really good. So the Dow Jones is almost pricing in to open at 3%. The S&P 500, same, a little bit lower than that. And the NASDAQ right around that as well. So the market's turning around today, feeling pretty good. We'll have to see what it looks like when they open up. More financial issues coming up, folks. On the other side of this break, we want to encourage you to join us. You can obviously call in. You can also join us on the chat, as well as a lively chat going on, financialissues.org/live. We'll be right back after this break. Stick with us.
Navigating through investment options can be challenging, especially when you're determined to uphold your God-given values. Every dollar you invest is a vote for the world that you want to live in. Let your values guide your investment decisions and help to shape the culture in which we live. Become a beacon of light and pave the way with biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, where faith and finance collide. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
We believe in being faithful stewards of what God has entrusted to us. And nothing is more important than investing in the next generation. The most impactful way to do this is by sharing the message of Jesus with young people. Crossroads Kids Club is an after-school program that brings the gospel to elementary school children in public schools nationwide. Together, we can make a lasting difference for the kingdom. To learn more and join the movement, visit reachOurschools.com. Again, that's reachOurschools.com.
Through the ministry of Preborn, the Financial Issues family has saved tens of thousands of lives of babies. What an amazing job that God has done through you, the Financial Issues family. Would you join us in saving the lives of babies? What an amazing reunion we will have in glory, meeting all the people that we have saved. Please go to preborn.org, that is preborn.org, or financialissues.org, and click on the Preborn banner.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shanna are hers alone and are for informational purposes only, and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it, and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Thanks for joining us today on Financial Issues, folks. You know, I really do believe there's never a bad time for you to consider becoming a partner of the ministry. But with everything that's going on right now, with the markets being down, that might even be extra incentive for you if you've been on the fence about investing to consider becoming a partner today. It's very easy. You just go to financialissues.org, our brand new website, by the way, that you get access to. And you just click that Become a Partner button, follow the steps. It's real easy. You pay $132 a year, not a month, but $132 a year. That's, by the way, the rough cost that you would pay for a financial advisor for an hourly rate. You pay us for a year, and you get the access to everything that we offer, asset allocation models, stock picks, buy list, broad list, all that stuff, partner commentary, the Ask Shanna portal, conference calls. Really would be a great thing for you to do if you're on the fence and you're considering it. I'd encourage you, now is the time to do it for sure. And speaking of the website, folks, I'm so grateful. So many of you have said how much you're enjoying it. Hope you're enjoying the site. Again, if you got questions, reach out to us. Let us know. Pat at financialissues.org is the place to go if you have questions for that. All right, folks, let's get to some comments here. So this first one that I wanted to do here, Sam, I don't think knows that I'm going to do this, but I'm going to embarrass him a little bit. We got a wonderful email from a partner named Brett who said, I want to make an encouraging comment for Sam, the other part of the dynamic duo for the show. Sam's always ready with topic insight, ready to assist Seth with show presentation. Credit must be given out to Sam. As I listen to the show, I think, what is Sam going to say about this topic? He gives such good insight from other perspectives that I might not think about. Love the work preparation these guys put in, genuine attitude. Brett, thank you so much for those kind words. And I agree with everything he said about Sam. It's pretty darn
Brett, that is too kind. Yeah. Thank you so much. And the thing I got to tell you is sometimes Sam doesn't know what Sam is going to say before he says it. So right. that is the secret.
But that's what makes it fun. Folks, I don't know if you knew this. This is a live show. So Sam and I, we certainly talk through, we're friends. We talk through what we're going to talk about beforehand. But this is a live conversation. This is an actual conversation that we're having that you all are listening and partaking in. But I can't agree more with what Brett said. Absolutely. There's a quote from Lord of the Rings where Frodo talks about his best friend Sam and says Frodo wouldn't have got far without Sam. And I feel that way about Seth as well, that Seth would not have gotten far without Sam. So appreciate
that's awesome.
You, buddy.
Thank
Absolutely.
you so much. That's too kind.
Yes, sir. Sam, what else do we have there? I know we have several chat comments, couple questions here. Why don't we start with Brandon there? Nathan from Brandon, Mississippi.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, his name's Brandon. No, his name is Nathan. He's from Brandon. Unfortunately, Seth, they're not all about me. They're actually a lot of them are weirdly enough about the ministry and the strategy. Right. But Nathan says the new website helped me take a look at the things at things way faster. Here's a 5-year look at just some of my random stock picks. He is up 421% in TE32, up 373% in CD81, and get this, Seth, up 565% in IN92. Those are some wild numbers. Obviously not a guarantee that everyone's going to see those results, but Nathan is certainly seeing some success here. He says some of these look really bad for the week and even months in the time up till now, but now he's doing very well. He says FISM is my financial advisor.
Nathan, that's awesome, man. And yeah, I can't stress enough, brother. You have figured it out. It's long term. It's consistent. You listen to the show. You follow the strategy. You're patient about it. And we really do believe that is a great recipe for success. So well done, brother. Man, I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And I love what you said too. Sam, you read that Nathan said some of these positions that are up tremendously throughout the whole time that he's held them, they look bad for the week or even the months. That's going to happen, folks. That's absolutely going to happen. And Nathan, I can tell that you've got that right steadfast attitude there. Great job, brother. Keep it up. And thank you for sharing that, man. That is awesome. What else do we have, Sam?
So we also have Nelson. He says, shout out to the FISM staff. Thank you for the show, the website, and God's word being stressed.
That's awesome. Yes, Nelson, thank you, brother. That's as long as we're on the air, those things are going to be core to the show. The engine of our ministry is the Word of God. Without it, we are nothing. We're Christian first. That drives our conservative worldview. That drives our strategy. That drives our biblically responsible investment, approach to this. And so I'm so grateful that it means so much to you, brother. And yes, I agree. The FISM staff is pretty delightful to get to work with. Especially when in the position that I was in a couple weeks ago, where I was able to take some time off to be with my newborn son, to be able to trust that the team had things under control. Just awesome. So it's a delight to get to work with these folks. Pretty cool. What else do we have there, Sam?
Moving on now to Debbie. She says, good morning. I've been a member for a while, but only now I've been able to begin investing. I believe this may be the time to begin. So she might want to go back and listen to your comments earlier in the show because she might be right. Now, she goes on to say, I know that you can't recommend any certain brokerages, but is there any that you like better than others for beginners?
Debbie, I appreciate your desire to begin. I think it's awesome. And it's a good question, too. I think you're asking the right ones. It's kind of a good news, bad news thing. So the bad news is I can't give you a specific brokerage. Many of you would say, I would love for FISM to just say, hey, just use this one. The good news is you can kind of pick. You can really kind of pick which one is up to you. I've heard good things about Fidelity for sure. You can use Schwab. You can use Vanguard. I can tell you this, Debbie, if you're looking for biblically responsible brokerages, it'll be tough to find those. Don't panic with that because you're not investing in the brokerage account. You're using their good or service. And we believe that that is perfectly okay for you to use the good or service of a non-biblically responsible business, so long as you are not investing in that business. And I think also as long as that business isn't allowing you to do things that are wicked and evil. So you are welcome, both I believe in your conscience and what the Word of God allows you, as well as the definition of biblically responsible investing, to use any of those. So yeah, I would say it's really up to you, and you're kind of able to have the freedom to pick which one you would like best. So I would encourage you to do that, and I'd encourage you to get started. Absolutely. And make sure that you check out those getting started videos that we have on the partner side of the website as well. I'll try to find a link for you, Debbie, if I can find those. Maybe during the break, I can try to send you that link there. It's tough for me to copy and paste a link while I'm talking at the same time. So
get better,
I will try
Seth.
to do that.
Come on.
I need to. If I could grow a third arm, that would be great. But
I'll say to Debbie, I think the key to picking a brokerage is just find one that is easy for you personally to use.
That's exactly
not which one's considered the best or whatever we use. For example, I use Fidelity, and that's just because personally I find it easy to use. It's not because I think it's the best one per se. It's just the one that works best for me.
Yep. Well said, Sam. And it's great. So yeah, Debbie, thank you for that comment there. And I'm glad that you've been a member for a while, but I'm even more glad that now you feel like it's the time to begin investing. So that's awesome. Well done on you. I got one more comment here, Sam. I'll just read this one. This is Marvin from Chester, North Carolina, saying, yes, Seth, I wanted to confirm that I've been waiting for this downturn for over 2 years. By the way, 2/3 of my holdings still in the green at the market low the other day. Marvin, that's awesome. Yeah, very cool. He said, I've been able to dollar cost average up and down, in this time. And we've been talking about the market being overvalued for some time, as we have on the show, as you know, Marvin. In these last 2 years, when bad economic news came out, the market would go up. Didn't make sense to me. This downturn has been a long time coming, and blessings to God growing our retirement. Marvin, that's awesome, man. And great job on you also having kind of that opportunistic attitude too. I think that's fantastic there. Boy, so good to see so many of you on the chat this morning. I do love getting to interact with you, and I can't encourage you enough as well. If you are interested in talking to us live, the phone lines are wide open. You can call in at 610-363-1110. 610-363-1110 is the number to call in there. So great stuff there. Let me jump back here just one more time here. I wanted to mention Brett's comments. He said some great things about Sam earlier. Brett had shared a very encouraging email with me, just asking me if I was continuing in some of my, training courses for, kind of understanding more about finances. And I did want to share all that with you. I've been taking some, courses recently, getting some training, under my belt. It's been going very well. I've been really, loving it a lot. So we're about halfway through that, program there. But just really, really cool stuff. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that the ministry's given to be able to learn a little bit more, about that stuff. But once again, Brett from Texas, huge shout outs to you. He's got the gift of encouragement. That's for sure. All right, to the markets here, folks. As they're about to open, everything is trending even more positive. Now everything's up above 3% as it prices in. So we'll see how that looks there. Hey, Sam, let's do this. Let's go ahead and grab one of those headlines we were going to do later in the show. And let's give this to some of our half-hour audience here. Why don't we talk about what's going on in China? Trump is putting the heat on China, apparently. What can you tell us about this?
I mean, he always has.
He does,
right?
yeah. He
kind of like his arch rivals. Makes sense.
Even when he would say during his first term, people from China love me. I love China. Everybody knew what was going on. But yeah. What can you tell us?
That's right. So President Trump yesterday threatened to increase tariffs on China by 50% if China doesn't undo its retaliatory tariffs. There's been a whole back and forth with China. Trump announced new tariffs last week along with all the other countries. But on China, he had some of the heftiest tariffs. They then responded. And depending how this latest back and forth goes, Trump could be placing 104% tariffs on China, depending on how this is all calculated. That is quite the doozy. Trump said, additionally, all talks with China concerning their requested meetings with us will be terminated. However, negotiations with other countries will begin taking place immediately. So he's saying he's going to prioritize negotiations with other countries over China. China has then responded responded, saying it will not back down. But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that's not really a good idea, considering the U.S. has all the leverage in this situation. So we should have that clip. That is clip 1, I believe.
We are the debtor nation.
Yes.
We have the trade deficits. The surplus nation is in the weaker position because the Chinese business model, and Tucker, by the way, the Chinese business model and the economy are the most unbalanced, imbalanced in the history of the modern world. We've never seen anything like this in terms of their export level relative to their GDP, relative to their population. So I think it is going to be very difficult for them to try to change the model. They're in a deflationary recession/depression right now. They're trying to export their way out of it, and we can't let them do that.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump is also trying to sweeten the deal by using TikTok as leverage, suggesting that China might be willing to give up TikTok in exchange for at least some tariff relief.
So once again, Sam, we said at the top of the show, it's no surprise that the country that Trump seems to be playing hardball with is our mortal enemy, China. So I'll be interested to see what happens with that TikTok part of that deal for sure. But Sam, that's great stuff, man. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. Folks, if you have to leave us, if you listen to the half-hour version of the show, we hope that you will join us again tomorrow. But we hope even more you'll find the live version of the show every day, 9:05 Eastern Time is when we air our live 1-hour version of the show. For the rest of you, we've got more financial issues coming up right after this. Stick with us.
Where's Mima? We found out Shepard's diagnosis when I was about 17 weeks pregnant. We learned that he was going to need a series of surgeries after he was born in order to give him what they considered a normal life. And we weren't sure how this worked.
Yeah, very emotional, very, very broken. And as my wife just said, not sure how this worked. And called Samaritan, and they said, you just go have that baby. You leave the rest to us.
And just to hear the confidence on the other end of the phone of this is not something that you need to be concerned about at all. You focus on the health of your family, the health of your baby, and we will walk with you every step of the way.
If you don't get life right, you're not going to get all the other issues correct, period. It is the issue that impacts every other issue. Life is the central part of what keeps this republic together. It is the contract that the founding fathers passed down through multiple generations. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You don't have life, you don't have a republic. There is a temptation out there right now, and I want to just tell you we must resist it. There's this temptation that we cast this issue aside. How does that honor God? It doesn't. And if it wasn't for preborn, I would be super just confused and depressed because there has never been, in my opinion, a more disjointed time in the pro-life movement. We need a machine to go up against the Planned Parenthood beast. Like, we have to play offense against the pro-abortion forces in this country, okay? We have to play offense. And preborn does it in this compassionate, merciful, godly way that is just so inspiring and amazing.
My wife and I, we moved into this neighborhood. We had some experience with Crossroads Kids Club. We had served at another club. We kind of thought to ourselves, like, it would be really, really cool for us to actually bring in a club that was able to share the love of Jesus with kids directly into the school. And so we started our Crossroads at Hilltop.
Crossroads is amazing. You can learn all kinds of things about God. That He loves all of us. He died on the cross to pay for our sins. That He will help me in every way.
There is just such tremendous opportunity to reach kids in some of these areas that just aren't being reached.
Sometimes I pray every night. When I feel alone sometimes, God is right there sitting next to me. I can rely on Him no matter what happens.
To learn more about Crossroads Kids Club and how you can get involved, visit reachourschools.com.
Welcome Welcome back, folks. Financial issues. Let's see what the markets are doing now. They've officially opened. Trading is now happening on Wall Street today, and boy, they are thrilled. They're just having a party. Every single major index is up well above 3%. Dow Jones right around 3.23. The S&P 500 is 3 1/3, and the NASDAQ is creeping up towards 4%. So it appears that the S&P 500 will be staving off an approach into bear market territory if the markets remain the same that they have opened this morning. Of course, folks, just like a sailing day on the North Sea, the winds can always change in any one direction at any moment or the other. But right now, that's what the markets are looking like today. All right, Sam, let's continue the conversation we picked up in that last segment with the tariff talks. It's interesting to see these international tariff reactions. And like you said, the table is growing, it seems. Countries are willing to come to the table.
Break out the fine China.
That's right, break out the fine China. Speaking of China, we just mentioned China, but there is another
ironic,
country.
Isn't it?
Yeah, right. I know. A complete opposition, it seems, to China. One of the United States' closest allies on the world stage, Israel, is apparently much more willing to come to the table. Sam, what can you tell us about the meeting that Trump had with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu?
Shock of shock. Our friends are more willing to negotiate than our enemies.
Isn't that funny how that works? Like, you enjoy your friends more?
Is this countries coming to the table willing to strike these tariffs deal giving this sense of stability to the market, or are they just digesting the current tariff regime? So you have to wonder what is causing the market to settle a little bit. But I might guess that these meetings have something to do with it. So yes, President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met at the White House yesterday, with Netanyahu saying after the meeting that he will remove all tariffs and trade barriers on the United States. Here he is.
I can tell you that I said to the president a very simple thing. We will eliminate the trade deficit with the United States. We intend to do it very quickly. We think it's the right thing to do. And we're going to also eliminate trade barriers, a variety of trade barriers that have been put up unnecessarily. And I think Israel can serve as a model for many countries who ought to do the same. I recognize the position of the United States. It says, we're allowing other countries to put tariffs on us, but we don't put tariffs on them. And, I'm a free trade champion, and free trade has to be fair trade.
So there you go, Seth, coming to the table. Now, Trump, for his part, has refused to commit to removing tariffs on Israel, at least right now. So perhaps he's waiting to see those tariffs actually taken off, seal the deal, get the result you want, and then respond in kind and remove those tariffs. Possibly a negotiating tactic there. Speaking of negotiations, Trump also spoke with Japan's prime minister yesterday, who said his country is also ready to negotiate, although Japan says that negotiation process will probably take longer than it did with Israel. Meanwhile, Scott Bessent, as I said earlier in the show, says that up to 70 countries are now looking to rebalance their trade agreements with the United States.
Yeah, Sam, I'm wondering if we're starting to see this master plan unfold a little bit here. The smoke might be clearing a little bit, folks. I'm not sure what it is. I'm no prophet for sure, but just reading the room, trying to understand what's happening, you can certainly see this might be what Trump wanted, to have countries come to the table, to be able to really have fair and free trade, definitely. Sam, I was interested when you said, that Trump did refuse to commit to removing tariffs on Israel. I personally am more than okay with that. I think that's an America First move. I don't want to disrupt the relationship with Israel too much. They're an important ally, but I do think that's okay. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. I mean, is that too much of an America First move, or is that Trump?
Is your question just to keep the tariffs on anyway, or do you mean for him to not remove the tariffs right now?
I think for him to not remove the tariffs right now.
Oh, I think that's fine, especially as a negotiating tactic to say, show me the goods. It's one thing to have a paper deal and say, yeah, we promise to remove the tariffs. Let's see you actually do it. Actually remove the tariffs. And I want to note that Israel actually doesn't have that high of a tariff rate on the United States. I think it's like 1%. And Netanyahu appeared to be taken back when Trump announced that we'd be having a 17% reciprocal tariff against them. That's related to other trade barriers, non-tariff related. So if I had to guess, that was most of their discussion at the White House yesterday, and it appears they have come to some sort of agreement. But as I said, it actually has to take effect for Trump to respond in kind.
Sure. Yep. Good stuff there, Sam. Thank you. Same with Japan also. Once again, our friends are much more willing to come to the table than the enemies are, for sure. Well, speaking of it's not even a nation. It's a conglomeration that bothers me, and I'm not really sure exactly how to describe it. I can't say that they're our enemy or our friend, because I know there are some nations within this conglomeration who consider themselves our friends. The European Union. And just interesting stuff here, Sam. Is the European Union ready to negotiate, you think, with Trump? Or maybe certain countries might be, certain other ones. What can you tell us about what President Ursula von der Leyen said, I believe, yesterday?
Yes, so they're looking to negotiate as well, although perhaps not in the same exact way. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen yesterday said the EU is ready to come to the table. She's currently offering 0-for-0 tariffs specifically on industrial goods. So not across the board tariff relief, but relief in this one specific sector. So here she is making that announcement.
We stand ready to negotiate with the United States. Indeed, we have offered 0-for-0 tariffs for industrial goods, as we have successfully done with many other trading partners, because Europe is always ready for a good deal, so we keep it on the table. But we are also prepared to respond through countermeasures and defend our interests.
So it kind of begs the question, though. She says we've already removed these tariffs on other nations, so why on earth are they still on the U.S.? Is it just because you can? There's not been a reason to remove them. No one's pressed you on this issue. So I think Trump's going to have that tough talk with the EU when it finally comes down to having a real negotiation. Speaking of negotiations, though, not everyone in the EU, as you said, it's not just one country. It's a block of countries, is willing to play nice. France, in particular, is looking to play hardball. French President Emmanuel Macron is talking about divesting from the United States, and especially talking about applying pressure on the U.S. tech sector, which, as we've noticed in the market, has been really dipping during this volatility, and he's looking to apply even more pressure to that.
Yeah. Good to know there, Sam. It does beg the question as well, so I'll just show my colors right off the bat. I don't like the European Union. I think it's
thought you were just going to say I don't like the French.
I don't like the French. No, I think that it really does rob nations being able to be nations. I think it's good to have nations. It's good to have nation states. And so when you have an entire, how many countries are in the European Union? Like 27, something like that.
Something like that.
It's a big grouping for sure. Seeing that, how these tariffs are going to in some way impact all of those countries on some level, it rubs me the wrong way for sure. So I do hope that the EU is ready to come to the table. I think that would be good in the long run, but I guess we'll just have to see what happens there. Good stuff, Sam, as always. I do know we have the Ag Report coming up in about a minute or so, but before we do that, folks, I did want to just remind you, I know some of you have shared this in the chat. I appreciate you all doing that you will let us know if you have any questions about the website, if there are things that are confusing for you. I can't stress that enough. For us to be able to make this website as good as we can, we need to know all these things. So even if it's something small, please do let us know. I know some of you have already let me something know in the chat, which I will pass along to our website team today. So thank you all so much for that. Good morning to Brian in Virginia and George, North Carolina. Wildwood Brian as well. We got Claude and George. I already said George there. Uncle John is there. Daniel from Tennessee. Good to see you. Tracy, we mentioned from North Dakota. I believe we mentioned James from Texas as well. Nathan, Brad. Great to see you all today. So thank you for joining us on Financial Issues this morning. All right, folks, we got Craig Halgard coming with the Ag Report, and then more financial issues will come up right after that. Stick with us.
This is Craig Halgard with your Financial Issues Ag Update for April 8th. Well, corn is showing some strength lately despite the tariff headlines and the outside market noise. Weekly export inspections remain strong. Last week's numbers came in at 62.3 million bushels, and year-to-date exports are running 322 million bushels ahead of year-ago numbers. Yesterday's close had May corn 4.25 cents higher at $4.64 and 1/4 cent per bushel. Soybeans had a volatile day with a 24-cent trading range after Friday's big sell-off due to China's retaliatory tariff announcement. Yesterday's volatility stemmed from a false rumor that President Trump was considering a 90-day pause on tariffs. Domestically, biofuel negotiations have really taken a back seat, with traders totally focused on tariffs. And in South America, Brazil's soybean harvest is now 87% complete, as we're seeing world export business make a seasonal shift from the U.S. to South America. At the close, May beans were 6 cents higher at $9.83. Wheat finished higher in another extremely volatile session, as prices were pushed and pulled by the latest headline news on trade and tariff policy. After the close, we had the first crop conditions report of the year, showed the winter wheat crop at 48% good to excellent. That's a couple points better than the 5-year average. Minneapolis May wheat was 9.5 cents higher for the day at $5.94. Kansas City was a penny and 3/4 higher, closing at $5.59 1/4. And Chicago was 7.5 cents higher at $5.36 1/2. Cotton futures rallied on the news that Vietnam was willing to go to zero tariffs against the U.S. As a result, May futures were up 263 points, closing at $65.99. Livestock futures continue to take a beating. June live cattle were $4, 2.5 cents lower at $194, 17.5 cents per hundredweight. May feeder cattle dropped by $3.60 to $271, 27.5 cents per hundred. And June lean hog futures were $1.50 lower at $90.05 per hundredweight. Milk futures made a new life of contract low and then rebounded to close a touch higher. May futures finished the day up 6 cents at $16.78. This has been Craig Howgard with your Financial Issues Ag Update. We'll be right back with more financial issues after this.
It's up to us to stand up and say, enough is enough. All of this unbiblical stuff that's going on, whether it's abortion or transsexual or LGBTQ, widespread pornography, human trafficking. Bottom line, it's still up to us. If we stop investing in these corporations that are trying to destroy us, sooner or later they're going to wake up.
To learn more about biblically responsible mutual funds and ETFs, go to timothyplan.com.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. On top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn.
Then they sat me down. If you were to die today, do you think you would go to heaven? And I was like, no. Keeping the child was my first stepping stone. And ever since then, God has cleaned me up from the inside out.
Help support women in need. Go to preborn.com/FISM.
What separates Crossroads Kids Club from other ministries to reach school-age children? What sets you guys apart?
First of all is our connection with local churches. We mobilize, equip, train, support local church partners. We're right inside the schools. There's a number of ministries that try to serve public school children outside of the school, but we're able to be right there on the campus. Another key thing is just our values. Our highest value is actually relationships. And so we're not a ministry that's driven by a lot of fancy technology or flashy stuff, but rather getting adults who love Jesus and who love kids to sit on the floor with a group of kids, to listen to them, to love them. So I would say the relational emphasis and the simplicity of the model is actually something that makes Crossroads special as well.
Help reach kids with the hope of the gospel. Visit reachOurschools.com.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Hey, folks, thanks for joining us so much on Financial Issues. We got a comment on Rumble from, I'm going to try to say this person's name right, Cata Poultriage, I think, saying, good morning, all. First found FISM on the radio. Thank you for going live.
And that is the name on their birth certificate.
That is it. Yes, that is your official name. Well, thank you so much for that encouragement. We do appreciate that. And we're grateful to be live on Rumble. So if you're watching us on Rumble, say hello. If you're watching us on Facebook, you can say hello as well. Like Mark saying hello, and Alejandro and Philip saying, good morning, Seth Sam, the FISM team. Thank you for showing the timeless foundational wisdom from Dan. Have a blessed day. Yeah, I love that. Foundational wisdom from Dan. It's some of my favorites. So good stuff there, Philip. Thank you for your encouragement. You're a constant source of encouragement to me and to our team. Pretty cool stuff. All right, Sam, let's get to some more impacts here of what we're seeing from these tariffs. Looking specifically at the auto industry, what can you tell us about GM and Nissan in particular?
Well, yes, it looks like the reshoring idea of the tariffs is also having a little bit of a result here. Yes, General Motors and Nissan are now both planning to ramp up production in the U.S., likely in response to Trump's 25% auto tariff that started on Thursday. Meanwhile, it's not just them. Ford and Stellantis is the maker of Jeep, Ram, and Dodge, are offering employee-level pricing to U.S. customers for a limited time as a way to stimulate the demand from American customers.
Good stuff, Sam. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention as well. So it's going to have an impact, folks, of course, on the automobile industry. So that's what we are seeing there. Good stuff. Awesome. Sam, let's go now to this question that we got from Nancy. I was hesitant about whether or not we should address this question, but I do think that it is a good one. So why don't you go ahead and read us Nancy's question there? What do we have?
It is a great question.
Yeah.
So she's asking, what is different with Costco than other companies that continue with DEI? Some companies that aren't considered buys because of their DEI stance, or rather she's saying some companies aren't considered buys because of their DEI stance, and then there's Costco. So what's up with that?
Nancy, that's a great question. And we talked about this at length in the last several months when Costco had their shareholder meeting. I will pull back the curtain a little bit for you all here as we're talking about Costco. Obviously, you know Costco's on our list right now, currently on BRI watch for a variety of reasons. I'll just say this, Nancy, that the research that we've done has really led us to the conclusion that Costco's DEI definition as it stands is somewhat benign, that there are certain things, there are certain definitions of DEI that companies use that are much more dangerous. Some of them are much more benign. I have to remind you of this, folks, and Sam, again, feel free to jump in at any point with any commentary that you have also. A company that has a DEI statement does not mean that it is not BRI. It could be a very bad warning sign, though. It could be a first step. And we've seen that a lot, but it doesn't always happen there. And so what we're doing with Costco is trying to figure out what's really going on here with all of that. So Nancy, I hope that that's helpful for you there. You're exactly right. There are a lot of companies that are not on the buy list because they do have a DEI stance, but they also have some pretty troubling things. They have a more serious DEI stance, maybe a more dangerous one, I guess you could call it, as opposed to some that are more benign. So I hope that makes sense for you, Nancy. Sam, did I hit it all there? Would you agree with that?
Seth, you are fantastic. No, I think here's the deal with DEI statements. I don't like any of them. I think DEI is poison to a company, but it poisons companies in different ways. Sometimes it just causes them to put out these silly statements about different things, about LGBT, but it doesn't lead to any actual donations to pride events or abortions or things like that. However, all of the companies that do donate to LGBT and abortion and things of that line, I guarantee you it is because of their DEI program. So I like to liken it to smoking cigarettes. If you smoke cigarettes, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get cancer, but not necessarily. If you have a DEI program, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be not BRI, but not necessarily. I hope that makes sense.
Well said, Sam. Well said. Nancy, I just want to commend you as well. I'm so grateful that you are looking into this because you're asking the right questions. So I want you to know that we are as well. And we are we're combing through this with a fine-tooth comb here to kind of see and make sure. And, folks, by the way, if you want a bit more of a definition on that BRI watch category, that's part of our new website. Check out the website instructional video because we explain that a little bit more. That wasn't something that we had on the old website, and we do have that now. This is for companies that we are really... Our eye is on them right now. Basically, they have two strikes and one more strike and they are out of here. So it's one of those situations there. Nancy, I really appreciate you bringing that up to us. Thank you for that question there. And I do hope that the answer that we gave at least made some sense for you. So good stuff there, folks. The markets one more time. This will probably be the last time that we check them on the live show today. The rebound has continued. All three indices well in the positive, up above 3 full percentage points. Oil has kind of remained around that $60, $61 a barrel mark there. We're also seeing, let's see here, U.S. 10-year Treasury yields are sitting right around 4.24%. So they're rising back up despite that tariff threat to growth there. Just seeing some news right now. Trump had a great call with South Korea and is saying that China wants to make a deal as well. So yes, Sam, exactly. That table, it's growing larger, brother. We'll have to see how that works.
I'd be curious about more details from the China call.
Yeah,
what was said there? Yeah.
We might not know until tomorrow, so I'd be interested to see that for sure. But yeah, we're talking about the mortal enemy of our country from a political standpoint.
But you know, 104% tariffs, that speaks pretty loud.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's
a lot of tariffs.
That's pretty big. So we will, folks, you can be assured that we'll be keeping an eye on all this stuff for you as the week goes on. Obviously, the tariff talks in the markets will probably be the big news. Don't forget, though, that we are seeing earnings season will pick up again starting this Friday. I mentioned it yesterday that some of the big banks will begin to report earnings for quarter one of 2025. So we'll be keeping an eye on that and how that might impact different holdings and, of course, the markets as well. Well, folks, I think it's as good a time as any to close out our show in the scriptures here. The Proverbs 19:17 tells us this: whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will repay him for his deed. I'll read that again. Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will repay him for his deed. So this verse goes hand in hand with Jesus' parable of the least of these brothers of mine from Matthew 25. If you remember Jesus saying to those who took care of the least of these brothers of mine, he's saying, whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. Now, that is not the social gospel, as some have tried to shoehorn it into. That's certainly not a works-based gospel as well. It fits right along with the true gospel, where if your heart has been truly changed and you love Christ, then the only natural reaction is that you will want to care for the needs of the needy around you. And so this verse talks about exactly that whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will repay him for his deed. Folks, when we show compassion to the needy, it is as if we are giving to the Lord himself. It is as if that person that we are helping is the Lord himself. This Old Testament promise, and it was written probably 1,000 years before, or almost 1,000 years before the birth of Christ. It's a good one, but it has eschatological significance for us as well, that God will reward us in the last day. He will reward us eternally for the generosity that we show to those around us today. Now, it's really important here, folks, because we talk often on the show about the opportunity of the markets. We've even been talking about that today, that some would argue this is a good opportunity to get money to work so that you can invest it and watch it grow. This time could provide great opportunity for that. In terms of opportunities for eternal investment, though, folks, I cannot stress this enough. It is always buying season, meaning you are always putting that money, so to speak, to work. There is never a bad time to get in to the eternal investment game. There's no bad time to invest in the kingdom of God is really what I'm trying to say to you. So my question for you is, what needs do you see in those around you today that you can meet? Now, it might be that you know someone who has a physical need that needs to be met. Maybe you know someone who lost their job, someone who's having trouble paying the bills, and you have the opportunity to help them. That could be a family member, a friend, something like that. But I don't want us to forget as well that it could also be the spiritual needs of those around us. That one of the greatest issues that our country faces today is spiritual impoverishedness. And I don't mean that you have a humble heart about you when you approach the Lord. I mean that you are spiritually bankrupt, that you don't know where to find true riches. True riches only come from Christ, folks. And so we have the opportunity to meet the spiritual needs of those around us, to lend to the poor in that way by sharing the good news of Jesus Christ with them, with the spiritually impoverished around us, and introducing them to the greatest cure for their greatest need: salvation in Jesus Christ, freedom from their sins. So don't miss that opportunity as well, even as you are looking around for the physical opportunities in front of you. If you are looking for a good physical opportunity to deploy some resources to help people, I can't encourage you enough to check out our friends at Preborn. Preborn is one of the ultimate ministries that helps the least of these, usually impoverished mothers and unborn children. tiny babies who cannot speak for themselves. Consider doing that today. Preborn.com is the place to go to check them out, folks. I would encourage you, be generous today. You're lending to the Lord. That's an eternal investment, and he will repay you for this deed. Well, folks, God bless you all. It was great to be here today on the show. I'm looking forward to doing it again tomorrow. Just remember to keep an eye out for those opportunities. Remember to continue to check out the website. If you're a partner, play around with it. And again, if you're not a partner, now is the time, an opportune time to become one. Financialissues.org/live is the place to check out the live show. Financialissues.org is the place to go to learn more about the partnership. Just click that partnership button there, and that's where you can find it. God bless you all. Remember, it's all his. Let's be found good and faithful stewards of the money that God has given to us. God bless. We'll see you next time.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.